Just a warning to all you viewers, if any of you are easily offended, do not watch this video. What shall we do with a drunken sailor? What shall we do with a drunken sailor? What shall we do with a drunken sailor? Just remind him of the big hangover coming to him early in the morning. How we doing, guys? Knock knock. Who's there? Allegra. Allegra who? Allegra Stratton, and do you have any job vacancies? No, Allegra and Tesco's is a 5-minute walk from here. Oh, and by the way, Allegra, they have a social distancing policy, and it's no laughing matter. You know, guys, even though I respect her for resigning, what a way to end the year for a political party. One of Boris's many MPs gets exposed, and his answer to that is to fuck up everybody else's Christmases. Don't you think that is narcissistic behavior? Like the drunken man that puts his children to bed at 2 in the afternoon with a good hiding, because he had a shit fucking morning at the pub. I often wonder, did anyone genuinely vote for him, or was this vote rigged, when he first got elected as Prime Minister? Even when he was London Mayor, I thought that was a joke. The issue here is simple: they can party and laugh at the rest of us, while no one else could hold the hands of loved ones, dying. But I'm going to lock you all down again, and punish you, the British public, because our own house is completely out of fucking order. Come on everybody, he has to go. And with that, I will actually honor Allegra Stratton for doing the honorable thing, and resigning. Anyway, moving on, when I look back at the lockdowns in 2020, 3 things have gone through my mind, and only I could think these things. Number 1, these lockdowns must have been an even more bitter blow for people who were already having affairs. No more snatching a quick moment, here or there. I bet these people proper felt like their noses had been put out of joint. Serves you all right, you disloyal cunts. Number 2, hitmen could not undertake the work they were hired to do, and have since joined doctors and nurses, vaccine injuring people. And 3, we can all take comfort in the fact that we have all had some fucking peace from these Jehovah's Witnesses. When you see any of them in the street now, that you recognize, notice that they don't seem to have a particularly big amount to say to people anymore. Is it because you have all been exposed for the fucking cult that you really are? None of any of these religious leaders, coincidentally raised their heads above the parapet, to address the social, devastating effects on people, psychologically, as a result of locking people down. They all kept their heads down and said, fuck all. Even these evangelists who preach in the United States, kept quiet too. Yet, I bet the cash point machines in their stadiums for churches are still intact, ready for gullible people, to fund their opulent lifestyles. And yes, we all know these scumbags are tax exempt. Wow, what a fucking racket. They always preach, get in alignment with God. No, it's really get in alignment with a con artist, to get fleeced of your hard-earned cash, that you could be putting towards a tax bill, that these grifters do not even have to put money aside for themselves. I would say to these low-life scum, where were you during these lockdowns, and where was your fictional God, with all his promises? I bet people have still gone back to these church stadiums to get ass-fucked financially, by these grifting swines. Will the world's population ever wake up and learn, that there is no such thing as a magic, fucking pill? Correct me if I am wrong, but did Jesus go around collecting money, in the film, Jesus of Nazareth? Well, there you go then. I show my sarcasm here, because I can see this whole thing for the scam it always was. And remember, we are supposed to be waiting for this impotent God to save us, and a God that loves con men and child molesters, and don't get me started about those wrong-uns. This God appears, and guest stars every fucking where. I had an uncle that went to Alcoholics Anonymous, many years ago, and he said it was full of Bible bashers, and sober assholes that were exactly the same as their pub days, but did not smell of alcohol. God this, God that. Fuck yourselves, you hypocrites. Even though, I do not personally subscribe to Satanism either, at least they are more upfront about who they are, than these so-called God-fearing liars and hypocrites, that are still leading their lives like cunts, from Monday to Saturday, and then put on their acting roles on Sundays. Anyway, moving on. What is the difference between a gang of thugs, and a gang of Down syndrome people? A gang of thugs will chase you, to kick 7 bells out of you, and a gang of Down syndromes will chase you, to cuddle you. How many idiots does it take to become a tradesman? It would surprise you these days. Anyhow, I see Boris Johnson and wife are soon to have another baby. But I suppose being born at number 10 is a better and more credible claim to fame than going missing in the desert and being involved in a coup while mummy is running the fucking country. Anyone remember Bernard Manning? What a fat racist prick that was. There was recorded, saying, just because a dog is born in a stable, it doesn't make it a horse. What? Did he get a fucking hard-on, watching Roots, or something? Would he have been sat there, ramming food into his face like he had 10 asses? One ass, one mouth fatty. I tell you what, going back briefly to the Conservative Party, it's had its fair share of controversial scandals over the years. 1993, that Conservative MP for Eastleigh, Stephen Finnegan was found on a kitchen table, sprawled out with a bin bag over his head, and an orange in his gob, that had been injected with amyl nitrate. How do these people begin their journey, to lead them to something as tragically perverted as that? I think of the song title by Hot Chocolate, It Started With a Kiss. In this case, it started with a wank. It started with a wank. I never knew it would come to this. Blomp, 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 blomp. You don't remember me, do you? Yes, some of us are old enough, Stephen. Anyway, what's a nice girl like you doing in a place like this? What the fuck's it to you, you dull cunt? Do you want to star in my next film? What is it about your work colleagues taking the piss out of you, 5 days a week? They always backfire, but people never learn. One born every fucking minute. Another one I heard was, have I seen you somewhere before? I don't think so. Why? Got it, I remember, it was Heaven. She walked away, looking at him, as if he was thrown off the bus for being too ugly. That would be the kind of village idiot that the butcher would probably chase out of his shop. You always get them. Years ago I had to take the rap for a childhood friend of mine who wasn't the brightest bulb. His name was Di. We were both walking down the docks in Cardiff with my grandfather, on a day out, when we were 12 years old. We saw this freight boat, slowly making its journey out of the harbour. Di turns around, out of the blue, and asks my granddad, is it a freight boat, or a passenger ferry? Before I even had the chance to say, maybe it serves both purposes, my granddad clipped me round the ear, and said, come on, don't be so thick you pig. Don't get me wrong, but Di was a nice lad, but he got eaten for breakfast by people. At the end of that day out, my granddad pulled me aside in the backyard when we got home and said to me, I know you are just kids at the moment, but there is going to have to come a time when you will have stopped babysitting that half-wit. Then he continued, if you weren't protecting him in the school playground, I would give him 5 minutes to live. I was always the sort of kid that did not follow a pack. I had a pack of my own, and I had followers, because I stood up for myself. I took everyone as they were, even if they were the class dweeb, in other people's eyes. I did not feel as if I had anything to prove. I suppose that's why victims of bullying would seek refuge with myself and my school friends. Anyway, on a less serious note. Liam Gallagher, you were not in the fucking Beatles, okay? You were in a band called Oasis. I'm glad we have got that cleared up. And Frankie Boyle wants Martine McCutcheon's face on a £10 note so he can wank all over it. 70s comedian, Ken Goodwin thinks you can get 17 people on a ladder. And another thing, Mr. Kipling caught 4 boys at his Bramleys and told them, line up outside my study at 12. Moving on, my humor sometimes gets me into trouble. When I worked in a shop I can remember this customer, who was with a group of people saying to me, I bet it annoys you, us just standing here, talking and not buying anything. I replied, it's okay, we are not going to charge you a toll fee, we are not a street gang from El Salvador. Another time this regular customer asked me, so what have you got planned for your day off then? I replied I'm going to be dressed up in a rubber suit, having my breathing restricted. The color drained out of his face. I pleaded with him and said only joking. He looked at me with disgust and walked away. Little did I know that all this was going to be thrown at me, at my next annual appraisal, which I will get to in the next video. Anyway, I will wrap it up now, and thanks for listening and tuning in.